Hello, welcome to the Ghost of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm McKelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 32 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today we're discussing chapter 31 of A Game of Thrones. That's Catelyn 6.
As always, we'll chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you. And hopefully, we'll provide you with some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the TV show, and indulge in a little pedantry. Be sure to check out the show notes, they'll provide some additional information about the characters and other things of note in the chapter. How are you?
I'm doing alright. When you say that part, indulge in a little pedantry, every time you say it, it reminds me of another story you once told about indulging. I don't know if you want to share that story on the air or not, but every time it pops into my head.
Oh, well, it would. It's a good story. So when Carson and I were first dating all those years ago, we were doing a Red Book quiz. Red Book is a magazine, like a women's magazine, and it had the quiz we were doing was which sense was most important to you sexually. And if you answered mostly A to the questions, it was visual. If you answered mostly B, it was hearing. If you answered mostly C, it was touch. So we both did the quiz, and I answered mostly A. And in the sort of like the description at the end of the answers, it says all men come out mostly A.
Yeah, I can see that.
Men like visual things.
Yeah.
And then she came out much more balanced, but sort of mostly C. And it said generally most women, touch is more important to most women. So that was the end. We were all like, interesting. And then the day passed, a few hours passed, and Carson was sweeping the house. And as she was sweeping the house, I was just lounging around watching her. And she sort of caught me and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, and I promise it was accidental, and I really didn't mean it, but the instant it was out of my mouth, I knew I'd made a mistake. I said, I was just indulging my anus.
I've heard that story so many times, and it still makes me laugh every time.
But I said A-N-E-S-S, anus, but that's not how it sounded, of course, and so, the thing was, it immediately cracked me up what I'd done. I mean, I was immediately laughing about what I'd said. But she, of course, didn't know. She heard what you all heard, and she was like, her thought was, I want his hands where I can see them. So yes, for me too, the word indulge will always be tainted if I can.
It will be what now?
Tainted.
Oh man, good stuff.
Come on, we got to get down to business.
We do. We've got a lot to talk about. I guess we should tell our listeners that we're.
What should be pretty obvious from the way we sound.
Yes, we are adhering to the social distancing thing, and we are recording separately from our own homes. So we apologize for any sound quality issues and any other issues we come across. We're really going to try to do our best, but we didn't want to not record. So, and we also didn't want to, not be responsible citizens. So, we're doing our best.
Yeah, and that's how I feel about it. I mean, I'm not terribly worried for me or my own family, but I feel like it is a sort of civic duty to, to distance ourselves to curb the spread.
Right.
Because if you catch it, you're indirectly going to pass it on to someone who is going to die from it,
Sure, yep.
So, there you go. Public service announcement from the Ghost of Harrenhal. All right. So, quick recap. Last time we saw Catelyn, she and Sir Roderick had stopped at the inn at the crossroads on their way from King's Landing to Winterfell. While she was there, she ran into Tyrion Lannister, who Petyr Littlefinger Baelish had told her owned the dagger that was used in the attempt on Bran's life. In a snap decision, she raised some bannermen of her own from around the inn and had Tyrion arrested, claiming that she was going to take him to Winterfell for justice. Why don't we give them the summary?
Let's do it.
Of this chapter.
Good plan. Okay, so Tyrion, who's been bound and had a sack over his head, gets his first look at the road he and his captors are traveling. He is shocked and dismayed to discover that the posse isn't heading to Winterfell like Cat announced. Instead, they're on their way to the Eyrie and Cat's sister Lysa Arryn. Cat has been driving the group hard, to the point they've begun to lose horses due to exhaustion, to ensure that the Lannisters don't catch them.
Tyrion thinks back to the day he was captured and about how Cat did raise some troops, but not nearly as many as she tried to win to her cause. Before being led away from the inn, Tyrion announced that his father, Tywin, would pay a rich price to know what happened to him. He doesn't actually believe that, but he does trust that word of his abduction will be spreading through the realm like wildfire, and that will force his father to take action. However, the intelligence will say that they've taken the Kingsroad north to Winterfell, not the high road to the Eyrie. It irks Tyrion that he keeps being outsmarted by Cat.
Tyrion finally gets a chance to talk to Cat when she begrudgingly agrees to a rest stop. Tyrion tells her that she's making a huge mistake, that he had nothing to do with the attempt on Bran's life. He insists it wasn't his dagger, and that only a fool would arm the man with his own blade. Doubt momentarily crosses Cat's mind, and she wonders why Petyr would lie to her. Tyrion responds that it's what he does. Then he says that Petyr brags at court of taking her virginity. Cat tells him Petyr said he lost the dagger in a bet when Petyr bet on Jaime and Tyrion bet on Loras Tyrell.
Before Tyrion can respond, a scout shouts that riders approach. A band of men from a mountain clan attack the group. During the battle, Tyrion saves Cat from 3 men. When the band of men are all killed or fled, the group find they've lost 3 men of their own, including Jick, one of Tyrion's travel companions and bodyguards. Tyrion has a quick bonding moment with the sellswords Bronn and Chigon. The chapter ends with Tyrion telling Cat that Petyr Baelish's story has one major flaw. Tyrion never bets against his family. Which is, possibly true, but also a sort of a warning to her. Don't bet against the Lannisters
right.
under any circumstances.
Yeah. So, Cat's announcement that the group was going to Winterfell was obviously just a diversion tactic. It seems like she never really meant to take him to Winterfell, which makes sense.
She's being cautious still, though, even though she hopes she's thrown them off the scent. She thinks that she fears being captured anyway, so they're riding hard to get to the Eyrie as quickly as possible.
Right. And in fact, as the chapter opens, they're preparing to eat Tyrion's horse that Jaime gave him for his 23rd name day. And I think she might be the 3rd horse they've lost already due to the frantic pace. So, she's certainly not... I was just going to say, she's certainly not betting everything on her misdirection plan.
Yeah, I got to wonder, we've done homework on horse distances before, how hard you have to ride a horse to kill it. I mean, it seems like pretty hard. Like, I'm thinking that the people would give out before the horses.
Possibly. Yeah, maybe it's due to the rocky terrain or something, the carrying the people up the hill. Maybe it's due to lack of water. I don't know what. They never really go into the details of why these horses are dropping, other than exhaustion, I guess, generally.
Yeah.
So he's tired and cramped and miserable, and he's damning all the Starks. And while this is they have stopped for a little break, and he starts reminiscing about back to the night. Do you think it was night? They never really said. It was dinner time, so in my mind it was nighttime. But he thinks back to the night at the inn when all this went down, and he basically fills the gap between the end of the last Catelyn chapter and now.
Yeah, so the night at the inn, Cat had showed the people the scars on her hand caused by the assassin's knife, but this gets us back to speculating if Tyrion is truly innocent. Oh, actually, honestly, even if Tyrion isn't innocent, if he sent the assassin, he would be a little bit confused by these scars, because he would have thought that the assassin would have killed Bran. But if he's truly innocent, he must have absolutely no idea. But of course, he does know that Bran was attacked. I mean, he went back to Winterfell. Yeah,
did that ever come up? I don't think it came up while Bran was in the room with Robb and Tyrion. It might have come up.
Did they keep it from him?
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm honestly, it could have happened and I've forgotten, but I don't remember a conversation between anyone and Tyrion about that horse-smelling guy that tried to kill Bran. So it's possible I brought it up to him, but it's also possible this is the first he's hearing about any of this, and he is just like,
Right.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. That's a good point. And also, the horse-smelling guy, even if he did hire the assassin, he probably didn't smell of horses at the time of the hiring.
That's true.
Just
That's a good point. He might not have been hiding out with the horses for 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, maybe he lived in stables all the time, That was his thing, his stick.
His comfort zone. Oh, that's funny. The picture of that.
So Tyrion made a plea at the inn that she was making a mistake. She said, I had no part in the attack on your son, on my honor. And Cat lashes out, Lannister honor.
Yeah, clearly she doesn't put much stock into on Lannister honor, I guess.
Yeah.
But this seems, even at sword point, this seems the right time to have this conversation, Like,
You mean back at the inn?
yes, like back at the inn.
Yeah.
All of this is being taken on Petyr's word, and even Cat has to know Petyr's not exactly Ned Stark when it comes to honesty,
Yeah, but maybe you're underestimating how afraid she is of delay. Maybe she's thinking, if I'm arresting him, I got to get him out of here quickly.
Yeah.
But I agree. I mean, obviously, logically, you've got to talk to him. You've got to confront him with the accusations and get his side of the story as quickly as possible.
Yeah. It just seems like, well, it was a snap decision. I mean, maybe if she had had time to think it through, if she had had time to sleep on it, she might have thought, I'm going to have a conversation with Tyrion and surrounded by a few of the, other knights or whatever, other swordsmen that are there, rather than, publicly have him arrested and all this jazz. But it seems like she might have wanted to get at least his thoughts on it before she went down this road. But
I think one point that you made actually is that I think she sees the Lannisters as, murderous because of what she's been told by her sister. Her sister accuses Cersei of killing Jon Arryn, and so that sort of also reinforces what she's hearing from Petyr Baelish about Tyrion. It kind of makes sense to her. These people murder my loved ones.
Yeah, I was just thinking that same thing, that maybe now she's seeing murderers in all Lannisters. I think that might be what's going on there. Plus, she's angry. She really thinks he tried to kill her sleeping, injured little son. And so she's lashing out, I guess.
Yeah. So the crowd at the inn calls out for his blood when they hear the story, but he agrees to go with Cat to Winterfell because, well, Tyrion is a smart cookie and he knows when to hold them and when to fold them.
Yes, yeah.
So his new friend Yoren steps aside because he, as a member of the Night's Watch, he takes no part in the quarrels of the kingdom. But he's probably going to be a messenger for someone on this news, that's for sure.
You would think. He's heading toward King's Landing. That's where his journey was taking him, so you'd think he will take this news somewhere with it. But
Tyrion always, is always thinking about how the game is being, whatever game he's involved in, what the odds are, and he's going through a sort of roll call of the people who did jump to her aid and those who didn't.
It's not exactly a who's who of the realm either when he starts looking at the situation. So
and also that it was Patchy who came to her aid. It wasn't everybody, and that the ones who stayed behind are definitely going to spread this word. So he's got reasons for optimism.
A little bit, yeah. He goes, the folks that did come to her aid real quickly are Sir Willis Woad, who you may remember back in the Ned 2 chapter when Robert says to him, "You're so prickly, you should take a porcupine as your sigil." And I said, there is a house that has a porcupine for a sigil, and it was the Woad, House Woad. This is Willis Woad of House Woad. He's a hedge knight.
Now, that's interesting you say that, because I was looking up the Woad's sigil before we started this, and it isn't actually a porcupine.
Maybe it was a hedgehog.
It's a hedgehog.
Yeah, that's what I think he said. Hedgehog is your sigil, not porcupine. Sorry.
I see. You just Americanized it.
You
turned the Great British Hedgehog into an American porcupine.
It has prickly things. So. But he has sworn to Lady Went of Harrenhal. So we certainly appreciate his participation in all this. There's also
we're honorable and faithful to the realm.
That's right. We're even doing this on a day when we have to do it from miles apart. There's also 3 Bracken men, which is Bracken men meaning men who are sworn to House Bracken. 2 sellswords, which I think Simon mentioned in the summary, Bran and Chiggin. And then he mentions some fool field hands who doubtless had no idea what they were doing. So
yeah, I mean, I got to imagine if I'm an amateur, if I'm just like a farmer, and I happen to be in the inn that night, I might stand up and say, yes, I'm on your side, Lady Stark. And then she says, right, we're heading to Winterfell. I'm like, well, wait, hang on.
I got crops in the field, lady.
Exactly. You seem to have enough people to take care of that small guy. I'll leave you to it.
I do notice later on, when that fight breaks out with the Mountain Clan, or the folks from the Mountain Clan, he never mentions any field hands being involved. Like, you never hear from them again. So that might have been exactly what they did.
Yeah, I'm sure that is what happened. I mean, you could perhaps get a sworn knight of a house that has fealty to House Tully to go out of his way for you, but pretty much nobody else is going to.
Yeah, this is a long way out of the way. There's not much over there by the Eyrie. I mean, there's a bunch of mountains and stuff, so.
Yeah, just some danger, basically.
Yes. So Cat had better hope her diversion worked, because this group's not going to put up much of a fight if the Lannisters do catch him.
Yeah, if they come in force, yeah.
Yeah.
So Tyrion realizes that only around 12 of the 50 people in the room actually came to her aid.
Yeah.
The phrase didn't bother, because that's how the phrase operate.
Yeah, of all the groups, that's the least surprising, is the phrase. There's more than 20, and 2 of them stirred, and they noticed that their captain hadn't moved, and so they sat back down. So, you might remember in the last Cat chapter, we mentioned the phrase, the late Walder Frey. Remember, he and his group showed up to the Trident after the battle was won, and Cat's dad, Lord Hoster Tully, started referring to him as the late Lord Frey. So they look out for themselves, basically. And Tyrion mentions that specifically, that's kind of how they roll. So
yeah. And Tyrion announces loudly that his father would pay handsomely for news, knowing that it's not strictly true, but knowing that ought to get the word out as widely as possible.
Right, yeah. I was just thinking, remember in the last Cat chapter, when she was going from group to group, she saw that large Frey group and thought, this is the heart of the matter right here. If I can get them on my side, which apparently she failed at. So, but
they didn't stop her. They didn't say, no,
right.
That guy should be allowed to go his own way.
I kind of wondered about that. So if she managed to rouse 12 of the 50, everyone knows the Lannisters are incredibly wealthy. I wonder if Tyrion would have had a shot if he had said, I will pay triple whatever she's going to pay you guys if you will come to my side just to get me out of here, Yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's interesting.
I wonder if he had tried a little harder, if he might not have been able to swing at least another 12 to his side, and then you got 12 on 12, and you got yourself a shot. So.
Yeah, I have to say, though, I think that if Walder Frey had been able to tell his men in the inn what to do, he would have told them to do exactly what they did.
I agree. Stay out of
it. Do not pick a side. Do not make the phrase appear to be on one side or the other in this fight.
Absolutely.
And so maybe that's a lesson that all Freys know deep down. And so instinctively they did what the Frey thing and stayed out of the fray.
But like you said, I think you had just mentioned that that his father will pay, that he announces his father will pay handsomely. You already said that, right? Just like a minute or so ago?
Yeah.
He knows that that's not true, but he also knows that the rest of the group there probably don't know that that's not true, so he's kind of banking on that. He knows his father doesn't care all that much for him, so...
Yeah, and Sir Roderick tries to sort of mitigate against that potential bribe by thanking everyone in the room to stay quiet. But
Yeah.
there's much less financial incentive to do that. So
I was thinking that's such a Stark thing to do. You know, like a Stark man, like a Winterfell person thing to do. To just say, we'll trust that you'll keep quiet about this, and actually trust that they will keep quiet about this.
right, what else can you do, really?
Yeah.
You try, you appeal to their better nature, but
Yeah.
you certainly can't pay them for their silence because then they'll just get double payment.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you for the 10 crowns for my silence, and now 50 for selling you out.
And we know, at least in King's Landing, paying people for their silence doesn't seem to work very well.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, even Tyrion stifles a laugh at that when he says that. And, he thinks, unless you take the whole inn with us, there's no way that this isn't getting out immediately. And also, like we mentioned, the Freys didn't join, so they're going to go tell their Lord Walder Frey, and despite the fact that he's sworn to the Tullys, like we mentioned, he's lived, and actually Tyrion mentions this as well, he's lived a long time making sure he's on the winning side, so he's probably going to straddle that fence as well as possible, send some birds to King's Landing.
As long as possible.
Yes, absolutely.
So Kat gets them moving because, she is worried about all this. I mean, obviously, as we said when she did this, this is the moment when battle is joined, basically.
Yeah.
So she gets them moving. She keeps on talking about going to King's Landing.
No, Winterfell, anyway.
Sorry, Winterfell.
I make that I don't know why, but I make that mistake a lot too. Say one or the other when I mean the opposite. Yeah, she promises a reward. It seemed like at the end of Cat 5, it was just like asking them on their honor and their loyalty to her father, but, to do this deed. But she does promise, if you do this, you will be rewarded by House Stark. So that would explain the sellswords and the farmhands, I guess.
Certainly the sellswords. Again, the farmhands, I'm sure, just went, oh, forget it. Yeah. I've done the bit that I can do.
Kinda, yeah.
Tyrion's confident they won't get as far as Winterfell. They'll be caught by the riders who will be sent to chase him down. So Kat's decision to redirect seems sensible.
He's figuring within a day there will be riders out there. And he's also confident that some Riverlord will want favor with Tywin enough to help. Kat's father, Hoster Tully, is the Lord Paramount of the Riverlands, so if some Riverlord did take part in helping the Lannisters, that could cause them some trouble too. If it got back to, I guess with him being bedridden, probably Edmure or someone else at Riverrun who's running the show. If Hoster's not able to, either way, it could get them in trouble, whoever it is.
So the big mouth musician Merlion joins them on the journey. I think he wants the adventure and perhaps write some songs about this, recognizing that it's a big moment in sort of recent history.
Yeah, he in the last chapter he was saying about how he was making a beeline for King's Landing because of how much money he was going to make at the tournament. I guess maybe he decided fame is more important than tournament earnings, because that's quite a big decision.
Yeah. But so that was all sort of flashback in the inn, but back to the sort of moment. Tyrion's been, the blindfold's been taken off and the sack's been taken off his head. He loses all hope because he recognizes they're in mountainous terrain. They're on the high road to the Eyrie, not the Kingsroad to Winterfell. Kat admits to her trickery. There's no point hiding it from it now.
Yeah.
The veil's their only option.
It really is. I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking about. Like, she can't bring that kind of trouble to Riverrun. I mean, like I just mentioned a minute ago, her father, Hoster Tully, is bedridden, and Riverrun is the closest option to Casterly Rock, so she'll be traveling along with the people that are taking this news to Tyrion's father, Tywin. So then they would know for certain that the lie about going to Riverrun was a lie, because they'll be like, well, this lady's traveling along with us here. So... yeah.
Although she could swell the numbers in her party by doing that, Hey, if you're selling me out to Casterly Rock or working with me, come with me now.
Right. Yeah.
At least they'll be safer on the road for now.
Yeah. Now, and if she could have made it past the neck, they'd be safe to get to Winterfell because everyone north of the Neck is
Yeah.
that'd be really hard to find someone that would sell her out north of the Neck. But
I wonder though. I wonder if the smarter move might have been to say she was going to go to the Eyrie and then go north, because I think it was closer to the Eyrie and they could get there without too much. It's a quieter road, so probably safer to
the high
go
road.
that
You mean?
way. The high road to the Eyrie, yeah. The Kingsroad is busier, and I think it was a greater distance to the Neck, so she was concerned they were going to get captured. But her bigger chance at safety is going north. So I wonder if it would have been better to say east or west. I'm going to River and I'm going to the Eyrie, and then just go north as quick as you can. The horses might have lasted a bit longer because it wasn't mountainous.
Yeah, that's a good
I think
point.
that lie would have been easier for them to see through, because they would expect her to go to Winterfell.
Yes, that's true. That's true. It's also, I mean, it's a long way just to get to Moat Cailin, just to get north of the Neck. And they had to go past the twin, not necessarily like cross over on the green fork of the Trident, across the twins, the crossings where the Freys live. But they have to go in that direction, and that might have caused them some trouble heading into Frey territory.
Yeah, you're right. So it burns it burns Tyrion up that Cat keeps outsmarting him over the abduction.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact line he uses, but it's something about the 7 times damned she-wolf or something like that keeps outsmarting him. So he's not happy about it.
Yeah, Tyrion does have a very low opinion of Lysa Arryn, it seems.
Yeah, I found that.
He knew her from court.
Yeah, I don't know why that struck me as interesting. I guess it would make sense if they're both, she's living in the Tower of the Hand and he's somewhere in the Red Keep, that they would have run into each other. But I just kind of found it interesting.
I think he feels that he knows Lysa Arryn better than Catelyn does now.
Yeah, seriously.
Cat hasn't seen Lysa for many years, so
right.
He maybe does have a better sense of Lysa's mental state.
That's true. That's very true.
So the men are begging Cat for a rest. More horses die, more burden on the remaining ones. Tyrion confesses that the likelihood of pursuit is not that great, and given her trickery, they're probably going up the Kingsroad anyway. So because Tywin doesn't care about him, the only reason Tywin would do anything is because of the slight against the Lannister house.
Yeah, I agree with his assessment. I don't think in a vacuum he would really put that much effort into this if it was just Tyrion having been kidnapped. It's the Stark attack on a Lannister that's going to cause Tywin to react, which we assume that he will.
Yes, in some way, for sure. And
now we get to the conversation between the two of them that would have been much better suited to have at the inn. And it seems like, they did have to stop sometimes to eat meals or something. You'd think they would have had this conversation earlier on the road. Like, she would want to know these details as soon as possible. There are differing opinions on whether or not Tyrion was involved in this. And he says what we've been saying for basically since the attack happened, that only a fool would arm a common footpad with his own blade.
Exactly, yeah. But, so, given that argument is solid, it does create a momentary doubt in Catelyn's head. Why would someone who we think of as being smart do something this stupid?
Right, and that's when she thinks...
But then she asks...
Yeah. She asks the question, why would Petyr lie to me? And I thought, this is why you talk before you take him hostage. Yeah. You can ask that question then, and it might not be such a bad situation. And his response is, does a bear crap in the woods? Lying comes as easily as breathing to him. And I think probably that resonates a little bit with Kat, but I feel like she's too far down this rabbit hole now to just be like, oh, I've made a mistake. I'm really sorry.
Yeah. I mean, my hope is that perhaps, when this comes to some sort of trial, that she gives credence to what Tyrion's saying. I mean, this could resolve itself. If she says, you know what, having talked to him and heard his side of it, I pronounce him innocent and let him go on his way and apologize for, accosting him.
That would be nice. That might save some troubles down the road here. So after he says, about Petyr Baelish being a liar, he then says, "You of all people should know that," and she questions what he means by that, and he says that Petyr Baelish brags around court of taking Cat's virginity, and she takes obviously much offense to this, and she says, "As a boy, he wanted my hand," and then I don't know. This part was a bit of a head scratcher to me. Tyrion decides at this moment to get oddly crass, and I'm not sure why he went down that road. He says, basically, without being too crass myself, he basically describes in vivid detail.
It wasn't her hand.
Exactly. In vivid detail that it wasn't just her hand that he was after. And
but I think what he's trying to do is, I mean, obviously he's trying to cause some upset, but he's trying to create the impression of what Petyr Baelish is like. I think he's trying to say, look, that's what's coming out of Petyr Baelish's mouth. It's not love for you. It's, you were someone he conquested and talked about in a gutter fashion.
I see. So you're thinking he's trying to indicate that this is the way he thinks of you. Like, these are the things he's saying about what he really wanted and got from you. Not just choosing an odd time to be crass.
You're right.
Yeah, it makes sense, because it really doesn't make any sense why he would choose right then to try and offend her so much when he's trying to convey to her that he's innocent and that she's been misled.
So then Cat announces that Petyr Baelish told her that Tyrion won the knife in a bet, betting on Sir Loras to unseat Sir Jaime, and that just at that moment the Mountain Clan attacks them.
Right.
And in the fight, it's kind of like quite a long scene in the book. The fight, Tyrion, but his bonds are cut. He's basically hiding with Marillion.
Yeah.
But his bonds get cut, and he's able to sort of like contribute a little bit, and he actually saves Cat from being killed when there are 3 men around him.
Right.
Around her.
Yeah, and he thinks to himself he should just let them have her, but while he's thinking that, he's heading toward the group, and I think he sneaks up on one and slams his axe into the guy's knee, and then Cat, in the melee, Cat stabs another guy, and the third one runs off. And I thought, those aren't actions of a guilty man. If you're a guilty man, you let those guys take her off or kill her or whatever, and then this whole thing just kind of falls apart. So,
yeah. Although you got to say, you need your party to win that fight, because you definitely don't want the Mountain Clan to win that fight.
Yeah, that's true. You could be in trouble.
He can make an argument and convince Catelyn Stark to let him go, but he won't be able to do that with the Mountain Clan.
Yeah.
Feels.
Although, I mean, I don't know that Cat was the linchpin holding this group's success together in this fight. Absolutely. He could have let her die whilst helping to win the fight. Yes, yeah. It's just, those aren't actions of a man who would also hire someone to go kill an unconscious child either, just generally.
Yeah. So after the fight, there are 3 dead men. 2 of them are Brackens, and one is Jick, one of Tyrion's bodyguards. Cat, after driving the horses to death, wants to stop and bury the dead in rocky ground. Seems
it's a good point. Yeah, I had thought about the contrast in those 2 styles there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Roderick took a significant injury, but he's still ticking along.
Yeah, Marillion got beaten up. Yeah.
Yeah, but including having his fingers trodden on by Tyrion on purpose.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, and he's so right as the 2 groups are coming toward each other, Tyrion notices that like the kind of the leader of the group from the Mountain Clan is wearing a shadow skin, which is a skin from a shadow cat. And at the end of this chapter, it's Marillion that's wearing this shadow skin. So clearly he picked that up and thought it would make a nice warm cloak, I guess.
Yeah. Tyrion actually killed a man in the fight. Bran tells him afterwards that he needs to now sleep with a woman after his first battle. Tyrion nods towards the only woman in their presence and says he's willing if she is. And that gets a big laugh.
Yeah, that's Tyrion doing what he does, makes connections with people.
Yeah. Making friends, and he slipped a dagger into his pocket during the fight, which was noticed, but Cat lets him keep it.
Yeah, right, yeah.
he's now riding normally, not bound or hooded.
Right. So if you go through if you go through the development, he's making some friends. He's currently armed, and he's no longer bound. So things are improving,
Heading
not
in the
getting
right
worse.
direction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The final line of the chapter is Tyrion. He and Cat catch up to one another again, and he says, "The serious flaw in Littlefinger's fable, Littlefinger being Petyr Baelish, is that I never bet against family." He's convinced me. I don't know that he's convinced Cat, but I think we've all along felt that he's innocent, and he didn't do anything in this chapter to make me question that.
I do question that line though, because I'm pretty sure that Tyrion's smart enough to know when to bet against his family.
Yeah, I had a similar thought. Maybe he just wouldn't bet.
Yeah, but again, I think what he's really saying is don't bet against the Lannisters in general, because they'll win and you will lose if you do bet against them. So to background, you wanted to talk about the mountain clans?
Yeah. So the mountain clans live in the foothills of the foothills of the mountains that they're heading into right now in the Vale of Arryn. Despite being divided into a lot of different clans, they ultimately share a common culture. The people of the clans are descendants of the first men and are considered primitive by the more civilized society of the Vale. They're kind of like the free folk north of the Wall. The Vale's clans are sometimes also referred to as wildlings, just like the folks north of the Wall. And like the northern wildlings, the clans reject the authority of kings and lords and stuff. And so in this case, they reject the authority of the Eyrie and they're independent of the rest of the Seven Kingdoms in its feudal society. And despite being considered primitive, they do actually have a rather democratic society. They believe that every person's voice, regardless of gender, should be heard during councils. So that's pretty progressive of them. As you saw with the raiding party in this chapter, they are rather poor people and have rather poor quality of weapons and armor. And as we just saw, they subsist by raiding local villages in small groups. They take what they get from those groups, like their weapons, grain, armor, whatever they can find, as well as their women. All this being said, it's been hundreds of years since the clansmen have threatened the Vale with anything more than a raid, basically. There is an interesting history of the mountain clans dating back to the Andal invasion of Westeros, which the book A World of Ice and Fire has a lot of really good information on, but we'll save that for another time.
The other threat that seemed to be worrying the cats group was the shadow cats. There are large felines found throughout Westeros, primarily in the lands north of the Wall, the northern Riverlands, the Red Mountains and Dawn, and obviously here in the Mountains of the Moon in the Vale. There's also a constellation of stars named Shadowcat. Yeah, nice. For physical characteristics, they have thick black fur with white stripes. For size, think of something between a tiger and a mountain lion. Their eyes glow in the dark, and their claws are sharp enough to disembowel a man with one swipe of a paw. On top of those paws, the Shadowcats have sharp, curved front teeth and a lashing tail. They make sounds ranging from a deep rumbling growl to a furious scream. The guy who appeared to be the leader of the Mountain Clan gang, as McKelly mentioned, was wearing a shadowskin cloak that Marillion has pilfered at the end. The pelts of Shadowcats are prized as warm and thick fur cloaks. Shadowcats are fearsome predators, but as we saw in this chapter, they also scavenge. It's said that Shadowcats can smell blood 6 miles away. They will eat every shred of meat from a kill, including cracking the bones to get the marrow. One bit of good news, Shadowcats tend to not attack living men unless starved. So the comparison with a television show, there's lots of similarities. You don't see any of the flashback to the inn, but some of it is sort of encapsulated in the conversation that Tyrion has with Cat. The attack comes as more of a surprise. In the book, there's a warning that the attack is coming. It actually, in the TV show, an arrow, I think, kills Marillion straight off the bat.
Oh, really?
So Tyrion is... Yeah, I believe so. He's the first person to be hit by anything. Whether it kills him or not, I'm not sure, but he certainly goes down in a heap. So Tyrion is still bound when the fight starts, because in the book he's unbound just before the fight starts.
Right.
Cat cuts him loose mid-battle, and he seriously thinks about jumping on a horse and getting out of there, but he turns back and saves her in the same way it described in the book, just against one guy, not 3. Before the battle, Tyrion's debate with Cat is supplemented by Tyrion asking Cat how well she knows her sister. So this thing about him knowing Lysa Arryn is sort of there.
Yeah.
He suggests she's very much changed in the 5 years since they last met, and she's making a mistake by heading in that direction.
That's interesting.
He also doesn't deny that the dagger is his, which is an interesting slight difference. Because in the book, he's adamant that the dagger is not his. He doesn't say that, just only that an imbecile would arm the assassin with his own dagger. But almost everything he says, I mean, he tries to make some points to Cat, but almost everything he says, you see, he's looking around to make sure that everybody in the party is listening. And basically, he's aiming it at those guards to try and turn them to his side.
Okay.
He talks of hefty rewards for anyone who rescues him. And certainly, we keep flashing to Bran, and Bran is listening with a lot of interest. So, pedantry, I'm pretty sure that Tyrion's smart enough to sense the wrong direction. You know, if they were... I'm not sure how long they're supposed to have hooded him, but if it's long enough to kill a horse, it's got to have been a fairly long time. If I was riding hooded, and I noticed I was going uphill, which I think I would also notice the direction that the sun was hitting me.
Yeah, that's true. And he did have that sack over his head, so maybe he couldn't feel... You still feel it on the rest of your body. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So, I mean, even if it was cloudy, I think you'd sense the light where it was hitting you. And I mean, they must have like peeled his hood up for water and things. I don't know. It just feels like he would not be completely surprised when that hood came off to find out where they were.
That's true.
But the other thing I wanted to call out, they never mentioned this. When they left the inn, which direction did they go?
Right.
Because if you announce loudly you're heading north from the inn, and then you head east from the inn, anybody who was paying attention would know that you've been lying.
They just go, didn't she say she was going to Winterfell? Why is she going that direction?
Now, maybe they went north and jagged across country, but they never mentioned doing that, so... I'm just saying.
Yep, I get what you're saying.
About.
Yes.
So, I don't know how coronavirus affects our frequency. I think maybe just because I think we recognize the quality of this recording is not going to be quite as good as we've done in the past.
I have a fear of that.
We might ease off. So if we ease off, then there'll be fewer episodes that are of lower quality.
True. Yes.
So, I feel like we're having a sort of behind-the-scenes discussion live on air now. But
you're seeing how the sausage is made. I hope that's a saying that translates to other countries.
But at the same time, I mean, poor benighted people need entertainment in these dark times.
Yes.
So perhaps we have a responsibility to get it out there. So concluding all this, I think Cat's plan, and I'm using air quotes around the word plan here,
I could feel him
unraveling quite a bit.
I couldn't see him, but I could feel him. I agree. Yeah. It's definitely not going probably how she drew it up in her mind. And then, Tyrion saving her, we haven't had any thoughts from her about how she feels about that yet, but that might affect her in some way. We'll have to see.
Right. And I think the other thing is Tyrion's arguments are swaying her. I think she recognizes some of the things he's saying have the ring of truth.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there's no question that his captors are beginning to waver as well.
Seems like it.
They're interested in how they might benefit from all this.
Yep. And now Sir Roderick is injured. We don't know how serious it is. We know he took a spear to the shoulder. He's not a young man anymore, so I don't know if... We don't know. We don't know yet how that's going to affect things, if he'll be okay or not. And they're still just in the foothills of the Mountains of the Moon, so they've still got a long way to go. So they're not out of the woods yet from other mountain clan attacks, so we'll see.
Yeah. As I said, Tyrion's arguments are shaking her belief. Why would he arm the assassin with his own? He doesn't bet against his family, so he didn't win that blade. And he definitely seems to be in earnest when he says all this. You know? And the one thing that he's successfully doing is undermining her faith in Littlefinger, who is the source of her information. The only reason she's connected the dots to the Lannisters is through Littlefinger.
That's true.
And now he's eroding whatever confidence she had, and she didn't have that much confidence in him. She was frequently annoyed by him during her time in King's Landing, and prior to that, of course, as well.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, he definitely seems to be in earnest when he says that it's not his blade, and it's definitely convincing her that Littlefinger is, double dealing, and that Littlefinger cares only about Littlefinger. Whatever she thinks about Littlefinger's love for her is only a drop in the ocean compared to his love for himself, and so she needs to not bank on his working for Cat's best interests.
I feel like that would be a wise idea for her to
just about for anyone, really.
To take that to heart. Well, anything else you got?
All right, that's all I got for this one.
All right, me
too.
Nope,
that's it.
I really hope the quality is acceptable. We apologize for if there's any quality issues. We're doing the best we can with what we've got, though.
Yeah. I think we talk over each other more when we're not there, because we can't sort of give each other sort of visual clues that we're about to say something. So Absolutely. I think there's been more of that, but hopefully we'll get better as we practice this.
That's true. This is our first go around at doing it this way. Well, as always, you can reach us at ghost.heronhall@gmail.com and follow us on Twitter at @ghostheronhall. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and don't forget, you can also listen to our episodes on YouTube as well.
Yeah. If you like what we're doing, leave us a review on iTunes or Podchaser, and that would help us get the word out. And please stay safe out there. Stay home and listen to podcasts.
Yes, great advice. All right.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.